Coming up on KCCI 8 News Close-Up, Trump's tariff pause that was set to end gets an extension. How long until sweeping changes in trade deals worldwide set in, and how it will affect you here in Iowa and what it could change for our local economy. More than 200 immigrant employees at an Iowa meatpacking plant got pink slips this week. Why the move is legal and the advice from immigration experts for people affected. Iowa's abortion ban took effect 1 year ago. How state lawmakers are reflecting on the law's passage and how it's forcing more people to travel out of state to access abortion.
This is Iowa's news leader. This is KCCI 8 News Close Up.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us for KCCI 8 News Close Up. I'm Chief Political Reporter Amanda Rooker. Well, there was a big shakeup for the city of Ottumwa last week. More than 200 immigrant workers at the city's largest employer had their legal status revoked. The meatpacking plant workers were in the U.S. under a humanitarian parole program. Now, that is different from a work visa. This program allowed people from Haiti, Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua into the country, and then they were granted temporary work authorization. The Trump administration ended the CHNV parole program, which revoked these workers' legal status. JBS tells KCCI they are now asking employees to prove that they're still eligible to work. If not, JBS says they will have to let them go. We received a statement from the White House that reads in part, quote, President Trump promised to restore sanity to America's immigration system and end Biden's dangerous policies that let countless unvetted aliens enter the United States. Terminating the Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans' parole is a key part of fulfilling that promise. Now, Congressman Zach Nunn represents Iowa's 3rd District. That includes the Ottumwa meatpacking plant. KCCI asked Nunn about why the Trump administration is revoking these workers' legal status and what that will mean for the Ottumwa community.
This is a right-sizing of where the original policy under the Biden administration fell short. I've been very committed to making sure the administration knows how important our visa program is and needing to be fixed. In working with JBS, we've worked very closely to make sure that there is no slowdown in production, either for the sellers who are taking their meat to market, or for the buyers who want to make sure that they have great quality meats, but at an affordable cost for a family. JBS has also noted in the Ottumwa community that all of those open positions are now on a pathway to be rehired, so we should not see a shortage of workforce in the Ottumwa area, which I think is really important for our rural communities.
Now, there's been a lot of questions about this, in part because our immigration system is so complex. There are a lot of different visas and programs that allow people to live and work in the U.S. I talked with Jody Mashik, the co-legal director at Iowa Migrant Movement for Justice, about the parole program that allowed more than 200 JBS workers to live in Iowa and why now they're being let go.
So with the CHNV program, what has happened is people have valid work permits as a result of that special parole program. And the work permits will say on paper that they're still valid, but because the current administration has ended the program, they no longer have that work authorization, which makes their work permits no longer valid. So for CHNV, which is again is a relatively newer program, individuals, when they were allowed to come into the US, you could only come if you had somebody here who sponsored you. Went through that whole long process, and then you were basically given a 2-year period to work, a 2-year work permit. And so again, the hope is if somebody's going to come and have work authorization and start to set up a life here, that they will be allowed to continue that. And unfortunately right now, that's just not the case. So we have people who are very scared, very frightened. People have had the rug yanked out from under them, and they were here with work authorization. They are contributing to our economies, and we need them, frankly. This is not just happening in Ottumwa. We are hearing reports of it happening in many communities throughout the state.
If someone was here on, under a humanitarian parole program, they're told to self-deport, what happens next for that individual? Is there a pathway that then they can reapply for entry back into the U.S.?
The self-deportation piece doesn't actually make sense in itself, because if you just depart the country, that is not actually a deportation. So the Trump administration has been using this term self-deport a lot, but nobody actually knows what that means. But because if you are deported from the United States, you have basically essentially been ordered by an immigration judge to be removed from the United States. That's not what's happening if you just pick up and you leave. So from a legal standpoint, that doesn't make sense. And it honestly could cause somebody a lot of problems if they are in removal proceedings, which is possible, even though they're here lawfully and have a work permit or did, they could still be in removal proceedings for some reason. And if they don't show up for a future court date, that is because they have left the country. That's also going to be problematic and actually cause them future problems. I can't tell you what the future holds in terms of them being able to come again in the future. It's very, very hard to come to the United States, despite what people have been saying for several decades now, that you need to do it, wait your turn, get in line. There is not a line. That doesn't exist. You can't just go to the US embassy in a different country and knock on the door and say, hi, I'd like to come to the US. That's not a thing that exists. There are very few pathways for people to come lawfully and remain here.
We reached out to the White House, and heard from the Department of Homeland Security. And of course, they're referring to this in the same way that I think the Trump administration has, talking back to the Biden era policies, and referring to a lot of these people as people that were not vetted when they came to the country. From your perspective, working with some of these people, having legal expertise on this program, what do you make of those types of comments?
The whole idea of vetting people is one that comes up a lot, and it has over the years. And I feel like it, as someone who is in the work and sees firsthand what processes look like, I just think it's a fallback. Like, oh, we haven't done enough vetting. It just sounds like, you filed a paper one day and they got a plane ticket the next day and came. No, it's a very long process that lasts for months. And not just for the parole program, but for all kinds of immigration programs. There are vetting procedures in place.
And then the last thing I would ask you, circling back to the very beginning of our conversation, where you were talking about if someone, has their work authorization, they're thinking they can be here until, they get a letter that says they can't. What's, from your perspective, the impact on the community or on that person?
Well, the impact on the community is huge. You're talking about taking children out of schools. You're talking about losing people who are contributing to the economy. I just don't think we think about those things, that we all benefit from the presence of immigrants in our communities. And quite literally, we're at the point in Iowa where we do need them. That's not new. But who is going to fill hundreds of jobs at these meatpacking plants? Who is going to take over 200 jobs at JBS and Ottumwa? It's not going to happen. We do actually need them in this state, whether people like it or not. But they are members of our community, and the impact is widespread and significant on all sides.
There's also been a lot of back and forth over this in the courts. Right now, the U.S. Supreme Court said the Trump administration can end the CHNV parole program, ending these workers' legal status, while the court considers a bigger legal challenge. Turning now to news from the White House, President Donald Trump ordered new tariffs across the globe, but instead of taking effect last Friday, as the president had earlier promised, Trump pushed the start date to Thursday, August 7th. The universal base rate will remain 10% for goods from countries with which the U.S. has a trade surplus. The base will be 15% when a trade deficit is involved. The rates are set to go even higher for goods from more than 24 other trade partners. The duty on some Canadian goods will be 35%, and most products from Mexico are getting another 90-day pause. So a lot of information there. These tariffs will impact Central Iowa businesses and the prices you pay, everything from groceries to cars to clothes. And we're breaking it down this morning to help you understand what the tariffs mean. Susanna DeBaca joins us this morning. She is an accomplished CEO. She is a board director and faculty at the University of Iowa College of Business. Her career spans diverse industries, including public, private, family-owned, and nonprofit businesses. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and I will correct. It's the Iowa State University College
Iowa State University.
Yes,
thank you.
Exactly.
That is an important
There's a big
correction.
difference.
Thank you. Well, we heard a lot of changes potentially happening on trade policy right now. But for Iowans at home, Could you start by explaining how should people be thinking about what a tariff is and what this means for them?
Exactly. So as you mentioned, Friday, August 1st, President Trump announced these new sweeping tariffs anywhere from the 10% up to 41% across dozens of countries. This is the largest tariff increase in almost 100 years. And it will be the effect will be felt at a national level in terms of our economy, a state level, and importantly, here in Iowa, in families' pocketbooks. So let's start out with what's a tariff. So a tariff is just, at its simplest form, a fancy word for a tax that we impose on things that we buy from other countries. So an import tax. It works both ways. Sometimes other countries will tax us as well, so we have exports. And these are not new. Tariffs have been used in the United States for many years. In fact, prior to the 1930s, high tariffs were common and were a very large source of revenue for the United States. After World War II, we started relaxing tariffs more in order to encourage trade with a lot of our allies or to open up some markets. But now President Trump asserts that those trade relationships are imbalanced and wants to pressure some of our trading partners to renegotiate.
How should Iowans be thinking about the news that just came out about this new round of tariffs that are set to take effect on August 7th? What could this mean for the country's economy, but also our economy here in Iowa?
Well, tariffs are sort of a double-edged sword. There's pros and cons for the country and for consumers. So on the pro side, the ability to renegotiate trade deals could be favorable. It depends. That's sort of complicated. But there will be a fair amount of disruption both to markets and to our supply chains, and that could have a big impact on a lot of different Iowa companies. For consumers, though, it means we are going to get hit right away with higher prices at the grocery store, back to school shopping, a lot of the consumer goods that we're used to buying, and that can have a big impact on our financial lives.
Are there certain industries or consumer goods, things here in Iowa that will see more of an impact?
Well, Iowa's major industries are agriculture, manufacturing, financial services, and small business. Of course, there's others, but those are the biggest ones. And for agriculture, what we're looking at right now is price increases on a lot of inputs to agriculture, things like fertilizer or maybe parts for farm equipment, for example. Manufacturing might see some price increases on things like steel or aluminum. And then financial services companies that serve those industries, if they have weaker margins, that's going to make a difference. Small businesses, however, if they are selling imported goods, will definitely see price increases, and there might be a slowdown in the economy and in what consumers are spending. But for consumers, we're going to see these hits right away in a lot of different kinds of very commonly used items, things we see at the grocery store all the time, fruits and vegetables, especially in the wintertime, coffee, tea, spices, but also things we don't think of necessarily as being affected. We've already heard that pop and even domestic beer are going to see price increases because of increases in aluminum costs. So very sweeping. But technology, clothing items, and also large consumer goods and pharmaceuticals are going to be affected.
Susanna, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
When we return, we'll take a look at the impact tariffs will have on Iowa farmers and our state's ag economy. We'll be right back. 30 seconds. Welcome back to Close Up. Today, we're talking about how Iowa's economy will be affected when the Trump administration's tariffs that were set to take effect last Friday start next week. Well, there's been a lot of uncertainty for Iowa farmers with all of the back and forth in Washington. So this morning, we have Iowa State University ag economist Chad Hart with us to help explain how Iowa farmers and our state's ag industry is thinking about all of this. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Well, I guess first, what was your reaction to the changes that the Trump administration laid out in this latest round?
Well, in this case, it did provide some clarity. We do know now what the tariff rates are, sort of which countries are facing them and that, but we still have some uncertainty about if you will, the devil's in the details. When we're looking at these trade agreements, we don't have the full details on, which products are maybe impacted by tariff rate quotas or specific guidance within those documents there. But like I say, it provides some clarity here as we're looking forward. It also provides some clarity about some of the responses we're seeing from these other countries, if they are going to respond with tariffs or not.
What has the uncertainty meant for Iowa farmers, and how much does partial clarity help Iowa farmers as we're approaching harvest?
Any clarity helps in this case, because the uncertainty does slow the markets down. As for an importing country looking at buying U.S. product versus Brazilian product, well, they may be comparing prices, and depending upon what the tariff rate might be, that could influence which country they purchase from. So anything that provides clarity helps them make that decision.
Are they thinking and watching and waiting maybe for whether or not we'll see retaliatory tariffs as well?
There is some of that. In fact, that's one of the biggest concerns when we're looking at, for example, our corn and soybean markets. It's not necessarily the tariffs that the U.S. puts on that impacts our markets. It's how those other countries respond to those tariffs. And typically, historically, they've responded with tariffs in kind, which tend to hurt our ability to sell into those markets. But what we're seeing with some of the trade deals that the president has struck is that the U.S. is being able to put tariffs on, but not necessarily seeing any retaliatory tariffs back from those other countries.
One of the things we saw was, some tariff changes for Canada, but not on all things. How should Iowa farmers be thinking through that?
In this case, agriculture sits in a very unique spot when it comes to U.S., Canada, and Mexico. We have what's known as the USMCA agreement, the old NAFTA agreement, North American Free Trade Agreement. That agreement still stands, and so if you look at what the president laid out there, he basically said he is putting a tariff on those Canadian goods that do not fall under the USMCA. Most ag products do, so we're not facing any tariff changes there.
What about the 90-day pause for Mexico?
The 90-day pause, I think it reflects, again, sort of the challenge of creating a trade deal that works across the various topics that the president's trying to adjust here. The 90-day pause buys more time to find some agreement there. And again, the USMCA is sort of standing pat as the agreement in place for agriculture to help guide our relationship with Mexico.
What impact could this have both in the short term and in the long term on Iowa's ag economy?
Short term, we're going to see some higher cost in agriculture. As Susanna mentioned, the idea is when we're looking at fertilizer and some of our machinery inputs, they do have a lot of imported material within that. That's going to cost more as we're looking forward. The big question mark is our ability to export our agricultural production. When you think about the U.S. agricultural economy, it is very export centric. We tend to produce more than we can utilize here within the U.S., and therefore we export to the rest of the world, and especially when it comes to the products we create here in Iowa: corn, soybeans, pork, beef. We tend to export a lot more than we import, and so we rely upon being able to sell into those other countries, and that's why the uncertainty around tariffs creates problems within those markets.
Well, Chad, thank you so much for being here this morning. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I know we'll probably talk to you and Susanna both as this continues. Well, still to come on Close Up, far-reaching changes 1 year after Iowa's current abortion law took effect, what it means for patients and healthcare providers, plus what's next for both sides of the debate. Welcome back. It has been 1 year since Iowa's abortion law took effect. The law bans abortion after fetal cardiac activity is detected. Doctors say that's usually around 6 weeks of pregnancy. The law includes exceptions for certain cases of rape and incest and to save the life of the mother. The anniversary marks a turning point in Iowa's abortion landscape, with clinics closing, patients traveling out of state, and both sides of the debate doubling down.
A year after Iowa law began banning abortion around 6 weeks of pregnancy,
we're seeing abortion clinics closing.
Pulse Life Advocates Executive Director Maggie DeWitty is celebrating.
That's our goal, right? We want to create a culture of life here in Iowa, and we're seeing that happen.
According to Planned Parenthood, abortion services in Iowa have dropped 74% since the law took effect last year. Reproductive rights activist and OB doctor Emily Bavers says she's seen this impact firsthand.
Women shoulder the weight of this bill and now bear pregnancies according to the will of the government.
Planned Parenthood says the number of Iowa patients now traveling to Minnesota and Nebraska for abortions has gone up 182%. Bavers says that puts more financial strain on Iowa women.
In 2023, only 194 women sought support from abortion funds to travel out of state. But in 2024, that number swelled to 625, more than tripled.
Iowa Democrats say the law has stripped away rights and choices. State Senate Democratic leader Janice Weiner reflected on the law's anniversary during a drive home from an out-of-state trip.
I realized that when I was standing there on the Illinois side of the Mississippi, that my granddaughter and I had more rights there than we would after we crossed the Mississippi.
With the fight feeling personal, she says it's far from over.
It really reinvigorated my determination to work for Iowans to get our rights back because it's just not okay.
National groups working to restrict abortion access are also looking ahead.
In terms of what next for Iowa and any state, the message I would send to everyone is the message that we've communicated from the beginning. Be as strong as you can possibly be and win.
Susan B. Anthony, Pro-Life America President Marjorie Dannenfelser, told KCCI that may mean pushing for a total abortion ban in Iowa or restricting access to mail-order abortion pills. DeWitty says she wants action on both.
We know our work isn't done, and it's going to continue to try and educate and advocate for the value of life and protection of women.
The state tracks the number of abortions in Iowa, showing the drop-off since this law took effect. In 2023, there were 2,771 abortions. Now that went down to 1,792 in 2024. Important to note, though, 2/3 of those 2024 abortions were before Iowa's ban took effect. That's all according to data from Iowa Health and Human Services. Close Up, we'll be right back after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back. A new director for Iowa Medicaid has been appointed. Iowa HHS announced Lee Grossman will oversee the department starting in September. He's originally from Iowa, but has spent the last 14 years working for the Wyoming Department of Health, more recently as its Medicaid director. The department serves more than 700,000 Iowans each year. Thanks for joining us this morning. Have a great day.